It's time for Who Watch, Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
Black girls have the box.
Hey everyone, it's Bayana, Connie, and Robin coming to you live from the Time Vortex.
Today we are discussing episode 1 of Doctor Who season 11, The Woman Who Fell to the Earth. In this episode, the Doctor makes new friends, Yaz wants something more, and Ryan watches someone he loves get fridged in favor of a white dude. So I want to, before we that's, it's going to come later, but also it's what happened.
Might as well just give it to you up front, y'all. Y'all know why y'all
what
here.
Happened.
Just,
Y'all know why y'all here.
Right. First off, y'all probably peeped the time stamp or whatever before you press play. It's probably going to be a long one. It was a long episode. There's a lot happening. It's all new characters, new Doctor, new whatever. Everything's new. So there's that. I personally want to start off by saying that, I am all in as 13 as Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor.
Co-sign.
I'm about it.
Same.
I love her 2 companions / friends.
Parentheses, 2.
Ryan and Yaz are my favorite. I love Ryan, and
Yaz is cute.
now I have to fight with Ty because I thought me
Friend
and Ryan
of the
had a
podcast,
thing,
Ty.
but now
is
I feel like I have to fight with Ty. And so, that's really unfortunate and, so to me. I feel a lot of sorrow about that because I really mess with Ty. And
But now you're fighting over, y'all both fight over Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan is...
But you know what is really great? It's because Ryan's too young for me. And there was this one moment, and we'll get there, but they did a close-up on Yaz, and I was like, I feel a way that I shouldn't feel because I never feel this way.
Yeah,
but I'm going to ride with it. When I was
watching,
opening up my sexuality, whatever.
I was watching with my sister, and she was we had paused it, and she was like, "Oh, Ryan is fine." I was like, "Mm-hmm," and then we kept going, and she was like, "Oh, Yaz is fine too." I was like, "Yeah, she is." But Ryan,
she got out of that uniform, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute."
Ryan is my one true TARDIS babe, and
all right.
I love him a lot.
So, we'll get there.
We should kind of go chronologically as much as we can. I think that'll probably help us focus
especially because it is mostly good. So the first 45 minutes or so were great. I was all in. And I think
is I would say more hour and a half because
because I think
or maybe hour-ish.
Yeah, because there is a moment where I was like, I know what's about to come, and I'm upset about it, and I had to wait 15 to 20 minutes of knowing that it was happening.
Right, absolutely. So that's the stuff that we'll talk about, and that'll sort of help us in terms of I'd like to focus on the good stuff first, and all the good stuff happens first, and then something bad happens, and we will get into it, and then there other fun things happen that would normally be really great if the thing towards the bad thing hadn't happened. So we start with Ryan, which is great for Team TARDIS.
Awesome.
I love that he's a YouTuber. I don't know how popular he is, but he has a
only have
page.
19 views.
It didn't look like he was, but also Ryan, work on your SEO, babe. The video was hey. The title of the video is hey. That tells me nothing. I'm not clicking on that.
Well, you might because he's fine. You might because he's fine.
Depending on what the thumbnail was. If the thumbnail, but also if I'm just going around YouTube, how am I gonna find "Hey" by Ryan S? It's Ryan S. Ryan's.
Yeah.
It's his YouTube name, and the title of the video, "Hey."
Hey.
No descriptor. That really, that immediately, I was like, I'm upset.
He needs a social media manager, absolutely.
I wonder if that's going to be a running thing, is that he's
narrating,
or if he's always the dude on social media or always the dude who's like doing those things. I feel like sometimes that kind of stuff starts off, at least like in other seasons, where like things will start off in one way. I'm thinking more about Clara, and like then it kind of gets left. Well, and part of that was like Clara was not well written, and like maybe it's just a Moffat thing. Now I think about it, because even Amy, there are things that like you say about them, and we see in like their introduction episode, and then it gets left off, and we no longer see it. So then I'm wondering if like all of the it was just used as a narrative choice for this specific episode, or if it's like a thing that's going to be more running.
I think it's going to be a more running thing for his character, or at least I hope so, because every other time social media has been used, like you just said, it's always a joke. It's always a thing. And it's always, you can tell that an old white man wrote it. Like, Moffat doesn't understand social media. He doesn't even use it. Like, he's not even on social media, so why was he even trying to include, like, tweeting jokes in the show, you know? So I feel like Ryan's use of social media, you know, starting off with a video, the way that he uses Twitter and social media later to like find out details about the case, I think that was, you know, true to being a millennial and being a young person. And I think that, or is he Gen Z? He might be Gen Z now. Oh, wow.
Well, he's 19, so I think he's definitely Gen Z.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
wow.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, like,
that was another reason why he said he was 19, and I was like,
I don't know. Ooh. But I don't think he's actually 19. Like the actor.
No. Right. You know, but I'm saying,
you know
like,
I mean?
For them to build a character that's 19, it's still like, that's about the character and not 26. About. Says Bayana looking up her wedding registry.
Like, he's a millennial.
Yes. But I enjoy that. I hope that they properly use social media and keep it as part of his character, because as we'll sort of discuss later, it was one of his like best traits and how he's able to contribute to the group in a way that's useful, although, you know, he's not going to be able to use social media in space. So, you know, we'll get there. But also, anyway.
You know, there could be other ways to
incorporate those same skills. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we kind of start with Ryan explaining sort of explaining, but they don't like say it outright until much later, that he has dyspraxia, which is, I believe it's a coordination disorder. So like he can't ride a bike, and that's a thing that's kind of like a sore spot for him and an issue for him. He's like, I'm 19 years old, can't ride a bike. And then we kind of go.
I can't either, so. But I'm a city girl who never learned.
We didn't teach her how to ride a bike. It was our fault, kind of. I don't know. I don't fully want to like take responsibility for that, because by the time I realized she couldn't ride a bike, we were the same size. So I tried to teach her, but then I was like, we're the same size, so you're leaning on me, and like I can't hold up your weight and the bike's weight and myself.
Balance.
So I had to. So we did it one time, and then I stopped. But we opened, like, after the like YouTube video, we see like him with his grandmother, and they're like on this hill, which seems.
Why are they on a hill to learn how to ride a bike? I don't understand. Like, that would make it so much worse.
I don't know. They have like rolling hills, and it was like a cool backdrop, but like it didn't.
A great
and maybe
backdrop.
Also like the grass is like soft to land on, but it also just doesn't seem like riding bikes on grass makes sense.
At
like
all.
I've never done that. Like
At
it just
all.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not clear. But yeah, so we kind of like see him trying to ride a bike and getting really frustrated about it. He's with another person.
Okay, so
grandmother, and that's who really matters.
Okay, so I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast before. So obviously they announced all the companions, and we were like, "Oh snap, Ryan! Oh snap, yes! Oh,
white dude.
Oh." After season 10, it just felt like we had Nardole once. We don't need Nardole again.
2.0.
I really wanted to have some sort of, like, hope for him, but Bayana kept drawing him out of the promotional photos. And it, like, made me laugh.
I appreciated it.
I appreciated
see
it,
anyone
too.
else in those pictures. I just felt like, why is there this weird blank space? Let me color it in.
And I didn't... And I wasn't mad at it either, but in my mind, I was just like, okay, well, you know, I'm gonna still give it half a second, you know, of a shot. And then I saw a picture, and I was like, oh, look, a black woman. She's hugged up on Graham a lot. Okay, well, maybe I'm gonna have to give him another shot, because
He's married to a black
woman. Like, you know, not
but
that that absolves you, but like, you know, I was like, well, maybe that'll give him another.
But Connie, what else did you say as you were saying that?
What did I say?
You would always say, he's married to a black woman, which we don't know how that will end, but I'm hopeful. Which basically meant we know how that will end.
Yeah, we are.
But I'm hoping they won't do that.
Actually, yes, you're absolutely right. We knew how this was going to end the moment I saw her in the photo pop up a week ago. And I was like, oh snap, he's married to a black woman, but we haven't seen or heard of her in any of the promotional materials at all. And obviously the show has been keeping a tight lid on all of that. So I was just like, well, you know, the companions usually have family on Earth. And
here we go. Before we get into that,
yes.
Skirt.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I will say though that in that scene when they kind of like introduced him as like Ryan's family member,
yes,
I was less like in that moment in the beginning. Mm-hmm. When homegirl called him granddad, and then Ryan was like, Graham. That's not my granddad.
And I was like, I love Ryan even more.
We don't know him. Me and Ryan have so much in common, guys. It's great.
Right, that's where I was leading to, really.
but I do think that, like, he... like having that connection and not him just being like some rando dude, but like them having some kind of like familial connection, I felt like I was cool with, especially because it seems like that is going to be a running thing. I think it could have still been a thing without other things, but you know, it's fine.
Could have even been a better thing without the other things.
Without the other things. It's fine. It's cool. Whatever. So we get this and Ryan is having a really hard time riding his bike. He falls and then he gets really frustrated and he throws his bike off a cliff.
I love that. He chucked it. He like picked it up and just tossed it off.
Yeah. And I love that. I really love that because that took a lot of coordination.
I don't think it's the same.
I'm just saying.
It's not like he had a target.
And it's also not like he's necessarily like, I mean, honestly, like I don't know much about dyspraxia, to be honest, but I also imagine that there are moments where it's not like you can't
do anything.
Throw a bike.
Yeah, it's not like throwing a basket into a hoop. But I think what I noticed was that Grace seemed to kind of almost immediately be like, don't you dare! Like she knew he was going to do it. So maybe he's done it before. Which is like, you know,
or at least had like similar.
Well, they did have a line where, like, when they were explaining to the doctor that he had dyspraxia, the doctor or both of them, and she's like, he gets testy about it. So I think like his emotional like journey is gonna be a part of it. Is like
for sure
getting frustrated because he's also like in the opening YouTube. Hey, a YouTube story was like, I'm 19 and I haven't done this thing, and like he seems very
irked about it.
Yeah.
So then he goes into the woods to go find. So like his grandma and homeboy go off because they have like a train to catch. So they're like, "Go get your bike, bro. We'll see you later." And so he goes into the woods to find his bike. It's in a tree because you know he threw it into the woods from the top off of a cliff. So he was above the woods. So he's kind of just in there like, "Oh well, great. Can't get that back." But then he sees there's like this weird like light thing happening, and then he goes and touches it.
Which is not something. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. These black Brits, I'm not sure.
Right.
I think though is that like part of me at first, like I was getting mad, but then I was also thinking, like if I saw some weird fantastical ass shit pop up in front of me in the middle of a forest and it looked like some magical ass shit, I might touch it. Like I might go over.
Who are you, Liana?
She's a girl that reads too much sci-fi fantasy.
You're like, okay, either I get magical powers. I'm like, either I get magical powers or I meet the doctor.
Are you Jason from The Good Place? Are you trying to go in the MRI holding a spider? No,
I'm just saying that, like, technically, like, these are two options, and Ryan got one of those options, right? Doctor popped out of the train or out of the sky, literally, and was like, hey, what's up? You're my friend now. And, like, look at him. He's better for it.
Is
Mostly.
he? Uh-huh. Yeah, you had to throw that mostly in there.
Sorry, I've like almost edited that whole part out of my brain, so that's really great. I'm like, I feel like as we're talking about it, I'm like getting more excited.
You're deleting everything?
Excellent.
I like it. I will say this. My dad was visiting, and so it was nice to like watch it with a non-Whovian who was also making fun of me. But I was like, you wouldn't touch that. Black people don't touch those things. And he was like, I might have touched it. And I was like, who are you?
I mean, do we have to stop generalizing that? Because, like, I feel like, I don't know. I think
part of it is like obviously plot though, right? So like
Absolutely.
We always say like black people run away from conflict and run away from stuff, and it's like yes, in general, if like some shit's about to go down, it looks like some like witchcraft, like we're out. But at the same time, for the purposes of the story,
don't fuck with no demons.
You know what I mean? Like for the purposes of the
story, why couldn't it have been some random white girl and he walked by like, what you doing, fam? Don't touch that. And then he called the cops.
Yeah. If it was some random white girl, she would have had a star in her eye, and then he would have fallen in love with her forever, and they would have lived on to go clubbing.
And own a house. And own a house. Come on.
Right. My bad. You're right.
Come on. Counting half of their accomplishments.
Real quick, going back to the train, we don't have to talk about Graham, but I really love that Grace was an older woman and flirty. Like, she's this grown woman flirting with her husband on the train. And she's just like, her. Oh, hey, little boy across the way. Like, he loves him some me. Like, I was like, yes, Grace.
Looking at her, and she was like,
listen, I'm auntie right now, full on. I do what I want. I say what I want.
I'm grown.
And I love that, like, you can see a lot, like, her relationship with Brian, like she's very patient with him, but then you also see like their like personalities are similar or their like instincts are similar. So like this thing crashes into the train and she's like, okay, what's going on? Like she's like, I'm gonna go investigate. I'm gonna see what's going on, right? There's a moment later on where the doctor runs off and Grace and Ryan are the first two to run after her.
Yeah.
Like without they're just like, let's go, we're doing this, right? So like, I like the writing of that, of them being...
I'm just going to say it here, and I'll bring it up again later.
Yeah.
But, like, every trait that Grace displayed is a trait that would end up filling the fate that she has later. But also, in the universe of Doctor Who, is a trait that all the companions have. Like, she was quintessential. You want to come with me in the journey on time through time and space? Like, she showed all of the traits that would perk the Doctor up and be like,
exactly.
We need to build. Let's connect. Let's build.
Vision. Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I'm picking up what you're laying down. I love the vibe. I'm vibing. Let's go. And yet.
I feel like that's a phrase that we say really often on this podcast.
And yet.
And yet. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I definitely feel like there were moments, and I feel like it's interesting because if it had been Yaz doing that, or if it had been Ryan doing it, or like even going back, if it had been because like Clara was doing shit like that, and it wasn't until the very end of hers that I was like, "Ooh, girl, this is not a good look. You gonna die." But it took a lot. You know, it took a lot of that. For, like even Rose, like it's like you said, it's a quintessential thing that companions have is their like instinct to run towards danger, but also like to help. It's not just like, ooh, what's going on? Let's chaos. It's like, nah, what's happening? We need to investigate because something could be wrong. And
who can we help?
Exactly. Who can we help? What can we do?
And curiosity, because Bill had that too. It was just like what's going on.
And what's frustrating and a little bit, and like we'll keep going and I'll re-edit it out of my brain, but like what's frustrating is that like is watching it happen and knowing that these are all the traits and also like having a really good idea of what was about to happen to her was like annoying.
Yeah. And also I think the idea, and again, we'll talk about it later, of her being all of those traits and being someone that all three of them are lacking in some way. And, you know, she had all of the traits that each one of them, something that they each didn't have. And I think that, I suppose she's all their inspiration or whatever.
She could have been a great man in a chair. She would have been the best man in the chair.
Later.
Yeah. Also, I do want to point out, like, they all know each other. So, like, Yaz and Ryan they went to primary school together. And so, like, after Ryan touches the thing, then this, like, weird egg thing appears, and he touches that, too. And then he's like, maybe I should call the cops. Maybe I should not be in this forest.
But I also love that he says, like, the cops, I guess. Because it's like, I don't know
who is really equipped to...
Yeah, who's in charge of this?
Right. And so then we meet Yaz, and she is like dealing with this parking dispute, and she seems very much like one of those. She reminds me of, and like not in a bad way, of like Rose or even Donna a little bit.
She reminds me a lot of Martha.
Well, I mean, I think she reminds me of Martha in some ways, but I'm thinking in terms of like her position, where she's very much like, this is not where I want to be, and I want to do more. I think she knows where it is she wants to be, which is slightly different than Rose.
That's where,
but she just knows that where she is. That's where she's more Martha. She actually knows where she is. It is where it's like, because I think with Martha is that she knows where she wants to be, but she's also on that path to being there, and she's like, this is fine, and like she's cool being in the positions that she's at because she knows that she has to learn things. Whereas like Yaz is very much like, I know where I want to be, and she feels like she can do that thing, and she feels like she's being underestimated and like not being used to her full capacity.
I also think that she is just not. She's impatient, which is not a Martha thing, but she is like, because what I got was she's on that path and she's going there, but she just needs to have more patience. Like the dude, like her boss is like, it's your second year, like this is where you're supposed to be. Like this is what you do your second year, and then you do that well, and then you get more.
Yeah, but I think it also, like, just talking about to, like, the, like, quintessential companion traits, I feel like that is one of them, is, Absolutely. Like, very much wanting to, like, be doing more. And even though in this case she kind of is like, I'm a cop, so, like, I know what my career path is, I think that, like, her traveling with the doctor will be interesting because she'll get to do more, I guess.
Yeah.
Some intergalactic experience. But, yeah, so then Ryan calls and, like, Yaz's boss is like, oh, you want to do something other than deal with parking? Fine, go to the woods.
To the middle of the woods.
For this weird thing that's going on. And so then Yaz and Ryan, like, kind of recognize each other by their names, which implies that they, like, haven't seen each other for at least 10 years because, like...
They don't recognize each other by their face.
Each other, exactly. And then they're kind of like... And Yaz is, like, very... I think... She's very skeptical and doesn't, like, when he's like, nah, it just appeared here and it's just been here. She's like, yeah, okay, fam, like, sure, whatever.
Which, this was really confusing me about the timeline, because we're not in an alternate universe or the mirror universe, are we? Because, like, how are they so skeptical about aliens?
So, like, I had this too, but then I was thinking about, like, between 10 and 11, that, like, wipe or whatever, where they don't remember the Earth and all that stuff. And then I was trying to think about, like, 12 and how many, like, he didn't have a lot of large-scale, like, alien situations. Other than the Zygons, actually. The Zygons were a pretty big thing. And they all kind of, like, accepted that Zygons were around. So maybe... But also, I think they maybe forgot about the Zygons. I don't know.
Maybe they look like you, so you forget it.
I probably have to. But they're also very specific, like, we don't get aliens in Sheffield, but then some people were like, they don't exist, and then we don't get them here, and then it's like, okay, but...
So which is...
There's been a lot of alien shit going on in this in this particular island for, like, a good 50 years.
Slate on everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Something happens.
I think that's one of those things where, like, I kind of wish that they wouldn't do that. Like, I think it's fine if they don't know specific aliens, and but, like, I feel like everyone
at this point... If they don't know the doctor, that's fine.
That's fine. I think everyone at this point should, at the very least, accept that, like, aliens exist.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they don't need to, like, know much more about that. They could just be like, another invasion, like the one in London 2 years ago.
Or like, oh my God, there's aliens here. I've never seen one. I've heard about that in London. But
part of it, though, is that, like, mass things like that, I think, after a while, and there's, like, gaslighting. It's like, that didn't actually happen. It was a stunt. You know, I'm thinking of the Marvel universe where it's just like, there are still people in the Netflix MCU who don't really believe that, you know, the Battle of Manhattan thing happened. So, like, it's one of those things where it's just like, those weren't real. They were just fooled. It was just
that was the government.
Prank. It was the government. And so,
InfoWars.
And then, you know, the longer away from the time it happened, you know, the more people are like, oh, well, maybe it didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah.
I just wish you would see that, though. Like, we would see them talking about, like, oh, you believe in that hoax of the alien invasion of whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Just because it was very confusing to me. Like, I would accept that explanation if I would have gotten that explanation, like, on screen. Because it was just very confusing to me throughout because it happened, like, a couple of times. Like, there's no such thing as aliens. You really believe she's an alien. And then we don't get aliens in Sheffield.
Right.
Because Graham seemed very much like aliens do not exist. And so
especially
I was very...
unless they're big and scaly. Like, he was just like, oh, I'd know an alien if it was in front of me. You can be an alien.
Which is like, for me, I was like, well, the Zygons look just like you, and we had that whole thing, and that was 3 years ago. Yeah. I mean, I guess he was going through cancer, so maybe he missed it.
I'm sorry, y'all. I have no idea who you're talking about.
This is going to be the running joke.
It's okay, Robin. Like, you and I will talk about it, and then I'll be like, wait,
because I just don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it was just, I'm fine with that explanation, but it just took me out of what was happening, and then I had to catch up, because, all these things are going on at once.
It's a lot of things happening.
So then I have to catch up to, like, I missed huge elements of the plot, because I'm sitting here like, where are we? Why do they not know about the alien?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's y'all's Ravenclaw brains.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot happening, and like, and it was like very quick. Like, I think the pacing was like very quick. But it was also long as well. Like, by the time it hit 11:45, I was like, wait, it's still not okay. And not in the it's taking forever, but in a like, I guess I just didn't think about the fact that it was like that it was a long episode.
I didn't know it was going to be
I either like had seen it somewhere and forgot, or I just didn't know. So I was like, it's been an hour and we're definitely not close to wrapping up. It's like still setting it up, but that was fine. So Yaz and Ryan are kind of like not really arguing, but Ryan's like, dude, like, I did not bring this here. Like, I can't even pick it up. Shit's heavy as hell. Like, there's a lot going on. And it's freezing. And she's kind of like I think she like comes around to it really quickly. But it like kind of shows the differences in their personalities, where she's a bit like more skeptical, more like reliant on like logic and rules. And whereas like he's very much like adaptable, if that makes sense. Like, he's very much like, they're like, because he's one of the first people to like bring up aliens. He's like, I think they're aliens.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, word? And he's like, yeah, it's probably aliens.
Also, though, he spends a lot of time on the internet.
That's true. That is true.
That's true.
So he's clearly ready.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I just appreciate that he's very like open, and not to say that Yaz isn't open. I think her instinct is to be
now that you say that, like, Yaz is training to be an investigator. I'm assuming that she wants to be like a detective, the way that she was going about, like, I want tougher cases and like more disputes. Like, there's like the two routes you can go in law enforcement. I know this from The Sims. You can become a detective or you can go the police chief route, which is like, give me more of these parking disputes. I'm going to rise up in the ranks and be an administrative genius and be the chief. Or you could be like, I want to become Luther and help catch serial killers. And she seemed more of the, like, I'm on that DCI track. And so because of that, and because she's, like, hoping to handle, like, more cases and stuff, she's trying to get all of the information and piece together the mystery in the most logical, clean way possible. Right. And because Ryan is not... I mean, when she was asking him, like, what he was up to now and stuff, like, he felt a little bit, it felt like he was a little bit hesitant to say, and he's not 100% comfortable. Like, yeah, he's trained to become a mechanic, and he is very, like, it seemed like he's going to have a lot of the, like, technical capabilities of, along with the doctor, like, putting things together and fixing things and knowing circuitry and computers, but felt very, like...
Well, like, she is very clearly on her career path, and, like, he's not.
And so it didn't really feel as confident about, like, that. And so it seems like, yes, she's much more skeptical, but also she's much more, like, laser focused, and he's more, like, his world is still really wide. Mm-hmm. Where she's kind of narrowed the scope of her world, like, this is what I need to do to get to where I need to be. But I think that is going to be a really cool, they're going to play off of each other really well because of that. I agree.
And I think it's also 19. Not so...
How old is she?
19. They were in the same grade.
I feel like she'd have to be older than him. Can you just become a cop? I guess you're 7.
School earlier.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess they're 17 when they graduate.
Yeah. Or so. I don't know.
Or so, and then like 2 years of police academy and second year of something. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
I don't know exactly either.
I also wanted to point out the contrast that she is an actual police officer and not a kissogram.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, that outfit is actually a little bit thicker and has, you know, tools, material, Kevlar.
Bright yellow vest.
You know?
Exactly.
No skirt. No tight skirt.
Nope, no skirt. No skirt. I don't know.
Had to point that out.
Yeah. So kind of they're back on the train, and Grace calls Ryan and is like, yo, some shit's going on the train. And then Ryan and Yaz kind of run off to
let's roll
figure
up.
out what's going on. So like, cause like this thing, it's like a ball of like cords, it looks like, kind
It's
of.
an electrical hairball is what it was.
That is what it is.
It looks like this Pokemon.
I think I called it like a tumble cord, like tumbleweaves, like or tumbleweed. And like,
it's tumbleweave.
it is tumbleweave. That is what it was to me. I thought tumbleweave, and then I was like, but it's not hair. So it's like running through the train or whatever, and it's like going to attack this one dude.
Tangela.
And then 13 falls through the roof.
Hey, girl.
And she just pops up like, oh, hey, what's up? And then
I made it.
Like, yeah. Like, hey, it's my show. What's going on?
Yeah.
Finally here.
I did really enjoy it, but then felt very uncomfortable. Like, it was cool because it was like a different thing, and like she pops up and you can hear the theme music playing, and I was like, ooh, that's new. And then they just kept going, and I was like, but we're missing core elements and the theme song. Right. I thought that was where it was gonna like stop, and then like we'll get the theme song and everything.
Right.
I'm really sad.
Yeah, but
all the like the TARDIS and the twirly
vortex.
Things.
Yeah,
because it's not like we don't know what the outside looks like. Like I know it like looks slightly different. So, but it's not like the theme song unless they've changed how that's gonna go.
No,
like
they didn't, because I googled it, and it's like it's slightly different.
Yeah,
the same way it's always
in the way that it always
is,
where they like switch it up a little bit, but it's the same.
Yeah, it just made, but it like, so at first I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I was like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. We're missing core elements. And I was like, I was just like, I'm already, again, last season, we started with the pilot, which was some bullshit and was terrifying. And then this season, we start and it's dark. And then there are things that are not the way that they're supposed to be, and so I'm feeling very uncomfortable and tense. And then we finally see the monster, and that shit was terrifying and gross.
Gross as hell.
And I'm just like, I mean, I don't feel like this one was as bad as the pilot for some reason. I don't know why. I think because I was so excited about all the people of color and the doctor, and I loved her immediately.
Well, I think too that like, so I was saying this in our Slack, where I was just like, it was dark, but it wasn't like Moffat dark. And it also reminded me of, I was reading an article. There's an article that came out last week or 2 weeks ago about Jenny Erman and Jane the Virgin, and like the way that show is, the way that she like writes that show to like kind of be in contrast to all of the really dark, like super heavy masculine shows that are on right now. And so in my head, it kind of like watching this, it felt like fresh and like happy and bouncy, but still it still had those dark elements, but it didn't feel like raw, like and whereas the 12th Doctor especially was like really dark, and it was always like blue color palettes, and you couldn't really you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And so I think that like in this way, where there were a lot of moments that were really they were dark like tonally, and like the monster was scary, it still didn't feel like it did, like the I don't know, there was like something in it that was different, and it reminded me a little bit more of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in that. So like we were talking about like it being really dark, and it's like no longer like I think Robin was yelling about, like it's not a family show.
It's not a family show.
It's not for children. Whereas Doctor Who at one point had like a more of a like librarians feel, where it's like we're just running around and all right. I think now it has more of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. feel, where like it's dark and it's super intense and a lot of things are happening, but they still keep some humor and like levity within that, if that makes sense. But it's not for children.
Yeah. But I do think that like the way that the show was going, it was very much, I don't know, as someone who can't see, like I just can't see. Yeah. So I'm like sitting literally like two steps from my my television. And then when I rewatch it on my computer, because I can literally like lay on my back and put the computer screen on my face. And that stuff is kind of the annoying darkness that I'm talking about, like the color palette and also my freaking subtitles weren't working.
And these northern accents, he said bike, but then I think it sounded like some other word, and I know he was talking about his bike, but the way he said it, I was just like, bike?
I really appreciated the Tim Shaw running gag, which we'll get to, but it took me forever to understand that she was saying Tim Shaw. So he was saying Sims Shaw or whatever he was saying.
Sinza, I want to say.
Sinza, maybe, and then she was like, Shimsha. And so I was like, Simza. Shimsha.
It's a joke that needs subtitles for sure when you're not from there.
Those things were the things that were kind of like, are going to bother me in the run of the season.
Yeah.
Also, I should probably just go to the eye doctor, but I'm feeling like there's nothing I can do about it. I just can't see. I'm just on my way to blindness.
Well, let's be more like Carl as a, transition. He got his affirmations in his ear. And so, they're... And
if there was going to be a white guy, couldn't it have been Carl? I kind of liked Carl.
Yeah, he's cool. He's right.
He was like, a baby Neville. He was like a baby Neville of like, oh no, I don't like this. I think I have to go. And I guess I decided not to care, but I never figured out exactly like how he got involved in this hunt.
He was in
the train.
Yeah.
And he's the one that left.
Yeah, it started to attack him, and then the doctor dropped in through the roof, and she stopped it, and then he was kind of like with the group, and they were like, all right, we're off to go like find out more things, and he's like, I'm gonna go.
I mean, but like they were searching, that's who they were searching for the whole time. That's why they stopped that train.
That's who the alien was searching for.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand why.
They chose randomly who the target was.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's why it was the other dude's sister last time. It's just like a random target.
Okay. That's what I had missed of like why he had even gotten involved in the first, like why he was even the target in the first place. Right. Random. But homie was just like, I can't do this. I gotta go. And I mean, real.
I felt it.
I feel that. And, if you know your strength, you know who you are. Me personally, if a woman drops out the roof and
you out
and hit, and somehow hits the alien with the old one too, I'm like, I'm messing with her. And she's most likely the doctor. Especially if she's like, I don't know who I am yet. They're like, what's your name? I can't remember. I don't know. And I'm like, oh, that's the doctor. I'm sticking with her.
And Biota's like, I've seen all of those episodes more than twice. I'm in. Very confused about why the thing that I watch on my television is now happening in front of my face, but I don't ask questions. I'm in. I got my running shoes. I'm ready. Got my ice pack.
Mm-hmm. My brace. All my braces.
All of my braces.
Instead of a hat box like Donna, I'll just have a box full of like braces, various braces. Yep.
Your poor ligaments.
They're gonna be like, run. I'm like, oh, one second. Wrap this around my lower back.
My copper fit. Oh God.
So then they kind of go off, and there's a moment where they split up, and it happens like very quickly, and then they kind of come back together really quickly in terms of like the scenes or whatever. But they're kind of like trying to figure out how they can find this alien and understand what's happening.
But also she has to take a nap.
Well, before that though, like they kind of all split up, right? Where like Yaz is like, okay, I'll go back to like the station, see if anyone's heard anything. Graham is like, oh, I used to do. I don't know. It's hard because I don't know him, but also like
he's
okay. It's different from Nardal.
He's important to the plot. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Which I appreciate that slightly, and we'll get into that. But like at the very least, he is important to plot. He's not just there.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, I used to drive buses, so I'll talk to my people. Grace is like, she has a
WhatsApp.
Yeah,
for her nurses.
For her nurses.
And then Ryan's like, I'll check social media. So they all are like, we got this part, and they just kind of do it, which I think is like nice as like they all bring things to the group and to the team, as opposed to just like, I like adventure and I want to like run around. So that part was
they all bring skills. They have a particular set of skills.
And they're willing to like they know about them. I think that's also important, is that they're aware of their individual strengths, which is not always the case with each companion. Like, sometimes they're, unaware of, like, how great they are, and that's why the Doctor comes into their life to sort of inform them. And these people kind of know their strengths. They're just having trouble, I guess, executing them or living their best lives with them or whatever. I don't know. But, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Doctor passes out because, like, she's still regenerating.
As Nicole on Twitter said, her regeneration-itis, and
love it.
I died laughing.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
And it's very, like, I loved it because it was very, like, it reminded me a lot of, like, 10 and 12 and, like, their regenerations. Although, like, I don't know, I parts of 10 I don't like, mostly because he left us alone with Rose by herself for like too long.
Right. Too long.
It was
with Rose and Jackie.
And Jackie. Ooh. And Mickey, but like Mickey it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't.
There. So that part, it's like that, but then even in Deep Breath, like 12 is like knocked out for a good amount of time. Clara's kind of like trying to
Clara's a beast.
It's just a good Clara episode, but that's not why we're here.
Great Clara episode.
Connie's like, who?
The one Clara episode.
I don't know her.
But yeah, no, I think that it was like, I liked that kind of like and I think, it's one of those issues that I kind of had with Moffat again, is just like not really referencing back to older things. And this wasn't like a straight up, like, I'm going to do this exactly like how I did it however many years ago it was that I regenerated, because the Doctor's like 1,500 years old, or like 1 million years old at this point, but like still it like had the same kind of.
And that's the thing about Doctor Who that I struggle with a lot too, is like, I think that you can change it up, but there still need to be these beats. Like, when they regenerate, they get tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can push through the tiredness or whatever, but then like 11, which I love his regeneration episode. I think the 11th hour is like one of the best. Yeah. But like, he's hungry and like he needs food to like whatever, and there's no nap. And I feel like a nap would have been great.
I mean, I think a nap would have been great, but I also kind of like that. I like the idea that it would be different for like different situations, right? You get different symptoms. So like, he's very much like, I'm starving and I just need to eat some shit, but I also don't know what I'm doing, so I'm like walking into trees, right? And like versus like Tenet, where he just like passed out for a good like 3 days. And then because even with Capaldi, like he had like this whole thing where he's running around goofy and then passes out for a little bit and then continues to be goofy, and he's like, I don't like, that nap didn't help him, and you know what I mean?
It didn't help at all.
It didn't help. So like, so I appreciate that. I also just like want, like, real quick, like, one of my main takeaways from this, other than like the BS, was that like we need David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker like as
totally.
the Doctor.
Duh.
Like, I was just like, it would be amazing.
But also, and I'm gonna put this out here because I'm still an 11 stan, I think that Jodie and Matt would be great too. Because I
think any of them would, and I honestly just want like all of them to be.
I really do think that Jodie, Matt, and David, they all have this like whimsy, like they're the funnier Doctors. Like, and even after that like first episode, I'm like, she's going to be funny, and like in a really cool, not trying too hard way. Like, it always felt, because, and again, I'm still salty about it. Capaldi is a funny ass guy. Like, his biggest gig before Doctor Who was a comedy that sparked Veep and movies. Like, that comedy, like the layout of that comedy, the thick of it, sparked like a whole movie and then a whole other like super successful show in America. So he has comedic timing. I felt like whenever he was being funny, it was, the whole thing was just too dark, and then when he would be funny, it just felt weird.
Yeah, I feel that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that, and I think that, like, especially because they again, like, they just pivoted way too hard. So like, by the time he's in like by the time he's in season 9, it's a little bit better, and by 10, it's like, it's a little bit better, especially because, they let him grow his hair out. He like says random things in the middle of his like big speeches that are like weird. But yeah, it's still not the same like kind of whimsy that I think like 10 and 11 brought to it, and that it seems like 13 is going to bring to it. Like, she very much like she says a lot of random things, but they're all like it doesn't feel forced, and it's very much like it's not like so there. I just watched the like the 12. I rewatched the 12 regeneration into 13, and when he's like doing his whole monologue, and he
you
goes
just
like,
watched that part?
"Never be."
Or the whole
I just watched that part. You gotta watch the whole episode because a lot of those episodes as a whole are not good. But those like moments are, but like there's a moment where he's like never be cruel or cowardly and never eat pears. So it's like, and it's cute in that moment that he like has that weird random thing in the middle of like a serious moment but I feel like it's very different than like what I think like, and they have those moments like like when she says like I never go to places that are acronyms or whatever. So she has
TARDIS is an acronym,
a literal acronym. But like she has those moments like that all the doctors have where they just like say shit like, oh yeah, I never land on Sundays, and you're like, oh okay, sure, whatever. Yeah. But I think also the way that she's very random in a way that still provides information.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even when she's talking to them and she like talks about, I think she was talking about fighting the TARDIS, and she goes, I've confused myself or I've distracted myself.
Yes.
Yes.
So
she's just saying like random shit that has nothing to do with what they're doing.
It's her internal.
She thinks in tangents, and I get it. I recognize game recognition.
But I appreciate that because that reminds me a bit more of. I think the thinking in tangents reminds me more of 11, but like her delivery reminds me more of 10. If that makes sense.
That does make
And then
sense.
real quick before we move on, if we're casting crossovers, let's just show a little love for 9 and just have the two of them in their northern accents.
I'm just giving up.
Northing it up.
Just give it up. I've given up.
I understand.
He's never coming back.
5 of them.
Right.
I just want
that would actually be peak. It's just to have all 5 of them together for the first time ever. Time has passed, and maybe he'll, feel like showing up again. Putting on a leather jacket.
It's gotta be someone high up in the BBC. Like I really do feel like he doesn't have beef with like the other actors. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Of course not.
But yeah, time has passed. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
I think what's interesting is I'm like very much I like just kind of talking about like our doctors or whatever. Like 10 is still my doctor, and like as far as I can tell for now, like will continue to be. But I think I'm I think the quickest, like not including Tenet, because when Christopher Eccleston was like, when I was watching 9, I already knew like I am in love with David Tennant. So I was already excited for him. But
who is not in love with David Tennant though?
It's just, he has it's a charisma.
He's got it.
So,
he's got it.
And like he does, and like even with Kilgrave, I've forgiven him for that. And so like, we went through a hard time during that when he was Kilgrave. Yeah. Like now we're back, and it's like stronger than ever. It's great. Anyway, we built sandcastles. But yeah, no. So I feel like with Jodie, I feel like she's the quickest that I've been on board. If that makes sense with a change, sure, not including Tenet. I very much I think like she popped up, like when she came, like she dropped down the roof of the train, popped up and was like, yo, I was like, yep, do it.
We ain't here.
We doing it. I'm here. Like,
that has a lot to do with like the time that we've had. Like we are all like we have been starved of 2. I'm saying this again because I feel like I mean, I think I've talked about when they announced Matt Smith, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this? This isn't good." No, like I saw him in a couple of. He was in this. I don't even remember the name of it. This like sitcom thing where he worked in like a political office. I can't remember the name of it. And he was all floppy haired and awkward, and that's who I was thinking of. And I was like, he can't replace Tenet. This isn't gonna work. And then like I immediately was on board at the end of 11th Hour. But there is something to how I just felt so ready when she landed and I got the theme song. My whole body, I felt like there was this relief.
Yeah,
I clapped.
And I was like, oh,
I was just like, she's here.
You. And the thing that's crazy is that like if we have to talk about season 10, why did I miss you? It's all the possibilities. They're going to do it better this time. They're gonna like redeem it. It's gonna redeem itself or whatever. But
that's this thing, and I feel like I think I wrote this when we joined Hard Knock Media. Like I wrote on Nerds of Color just about like there's something about Doctor Who that is very even in the moments where like it scorns you, and we'll talk about that. Like it like, and there are moments where like that happens and you get really upset. And I think it's because it's so like
close.
It's something about it that just like pulls you in. Like it's like your home. It's like very.
You know,
it makes
as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like how when Luna will do some dumb fucking shit, and I'll just be like, this isn't gonna work. What was I like? Why did I think that I could do this? I can't do this. And then she'll look up at me with those eyes, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, we'll try again. Okay,
but like Doctor Who just makes me so happy. You know?
And that's what like it does. It's like they will do this thing, and you're like, fuck you. Why are you ruining my life?
Yeah.
Why are you pooing in my house? And then
that one was very specific.
Will drop. That was specific. Every dog owner might know about the pooing in your house.
Yeah.
And then Jodie Whittaker looks up at you with big eyes and is like, "Am I a woman? Interesting." And you're like, "Okay."
She's like, "How do I look?"
Another go.
I'm cute, right?
Do it again. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because definitely when she popped up, I was like, okay, we're in it. Like, we're just, and I think that, like, for the most part of this episode, like, it very much just felt like, I don't know, like, we're back. Like, we're home. We're traveling time and space. I'm ready. I'm just like, I'm just here.
And then, like, the wind in her hair was great.
Yeah. And she immediately, like, dropped
she
down.
rocked that Capaldi suit. Like, I was like, this could be the outfit.
It could have been.
What's hilarious is like for like I was low key like, oh, she's not going to do the little flip, the like because the little you see the red on the inside,
right.
like she wasn't fucking with like that. She was like, whatever, it's cool.
Well, I don't think that one had the red on the inside. This was the new one with the hoodie and the
no, it still had red on the lining. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I am here for her.
I'm here for her making her own freaking Sonic. Like
yes.
So we. The internet joked a lot about the Sonic when it first debuted, and I think on the show it looks much less PG, rated R. And I think Robin, you're the one who tweeted. You pointed out that like she makes it from spoons, so it kind of looks spoon shaped.
Yeah, with the curve, I was like, okay.
And I'm still a little confused as to how she had all those materials, but timey-wimey, spacey-wacy, magic-y,
well, they were like a weird,
warehouse layer thing.
Yeah, like Sheffield
Steel. She dropped like a ton of spoons.
Yeah.
So maybe there's like a kitchen somewhere nearby.
But it also felt like a kind of place where you would be like, oh, we got new spoons, put the old spoons in the basement just in case.
Well, I guess it's a steel factory.
Yeah.
I guess it's a steel factory anyway, so it's like they had those. Those aren't the materials I'm worried about. She made the Sonic circuitry parts and like the glowy
she
parts.
She can build things.
Probably.
I can build things.
Probably. So I'm not actually confused because I don't care. It was awesome, but the logic part of my brain was just like, okay, so like which materials did you need? How long did it take you to go find them in that factory? Were they all readily available for you? Like all those like little nitpicky questions that don't actually mean anything. So we can move on. But it was awesome.
But I do think that she'll end up when they reunite with the TARDIS, she'll put it in the thing and it'll fix it. It was like she was like, it works kind of enough.
Yeah.
For now.
It works well enough.
Yeah, so I think that like it gives them the wriggle room of like she made it. She didn't have the best materials at hand, but then she'll fix it.
Yeah. And also like she's
by the time she
generating, right?
She'll like, well, I kind of like the way it looks,
Right.
Exactly.
And I also like appreciated it's like very much like it's a lot like 11 or like 11 where she's like no Sonic, no TARDIS. And like then she's like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna just make a Sonic. Then like, you know what? We need one of these things, but might as well just like make this shit.
I've been through this before, and it started to go well, and then it kind of didn't. So what am I gonna do now? All right, how did I get out of last time? Can't do that.
I will say,
new plan.
I hope that they do not call it the Sonic Swiss Army knife. Like, it was a cute line.
Same.
Don't.
No, but I don't think
screwdriver.
Because when they
we're not saying companions anymore.
I know.
No, but I know that. But what I'm saying, like when they were like selling, like they've been selling the screwdriver since before, and they've been calling it a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So like, I appreciate her saying, "Oh, it's my Swiss Army Sonic," but like, I appreciate that as like a one-off, like for this episode. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh, now I have these sunglasses that you should all buy. That like any other plastic ass
sunglasses,
3D glasses from the movies.
Them glasses were not happening.
Yeah, it didn't feel like that. It felt like, oh, it's not a screwdriver, but like, here's a way to explain it. And then it also like...
And I think that, like, I understood that because they were saying a lot that this is like, they definitely want this to be like a... Like, in the same way people are like, well, I've been watching since New Who, I've been watching since 9. Like, they want this to end up being like, I've been watching since 13. Like, clean slate. Like, this is a good time. Shout out to Portia, who was like, I mean, all y'all talking about it, so I guess. And like,
but then I love Portia because she is like, she's like the Ravenclaw Ravenclaw. She's really very much like, well, how did they get here in this amount of time? And what's going on here? And I'm like, girl, it's not that kind of show. You can't do it.
You can't do it.
You can't logic it away.
It's not going to work, bro. No. It's not going to work.
No.
But
she did her best. And I think, and it's funny because the things that she was trying to poke holes in it's like, you can poke a lot of holes in this show. And then I was like, wait, no, they actually did a good job of explaining that. Like, good on you, show. And I had a friend, my coworker was like, I'm going to give this show a shot. And then, homie with the teeth showed up and she was like, I got to tap out. And I was like, you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Like,
I mean, literally,
I didn't know what was going to happen.
What she was like, what's up with the teeth? I said, like outwardly, was like, no. I don't want to know. No. And then he was like, I knew I didn't want it. I knew it.
So gross. It's just not hygienic. Like, he must keep a big ass toothbrush.
I sort of do social media for my dentist, so I tweeted about it and tagged my dentist.
Oh my god!
Because I'm like, I have a lot of questions about these teeth. Like, does he have a toothbrush? Is there a flossing regimen? Like, does he like moisturize and mouthwash? Like, I have a lot of questions about how this teeth, because there were some pearly white teeth. Like, he must have some whitening, treatments that he puts on his face. I just had a lot of questions about how he maintains his pearly.
I had no questions. The only questions I had
literally just like,
when can homeboy put the helmet back on?
Yeah,
that was my only question.
Not in a like they shouldn't have done it, but in a like I just didn't need to. I could have lived my whole life without knowing I took the teeth. I'd have been fine.
I'd have been like, that's weird, right? That was a weird thing that alien did. He took the teeth.
They never explained
it.
So sad we'll never find out. So sad.
Didn't need it, didn't want it.
Yeah, nobody needs it. But I liked 13 like trolling him. Like, he was like real just mad serious. And she was like, Tim Shaw? Tim Shaw? Oh, that's crazy. That's real.
And then was like, what's up, Tim Shaw? How you been?
Long time no see.
Them DNA bombs handled that. What's going on? How about you? What you got going on?
That is intense.
But I did really enjoy the fact. So like throughout the series, or the episode, she doesn't really know. Like people like asking her who she is, and she's like, I know it. It's there somewhere. Mm-hmm. Just can't bring the words to myself. But also knew that she was as clever or more clever than he was. Like, was immediately like, get behind me.
She said, he said small brain, and she turned around like, did he just say I have a small mind?
He just said, I have a small brain?
Me? She's like, I may not know my name, but I know the size of my brain is.
Look, I know I look human, but don't be comparing me to these puny little minds over here, because you will not.
What you won't
wreck
do.
yourself before you wreck yourself, okay?
But so, a lot of stuff happens and goes down with Tim Shaw. I mean, basically, they find, the steel place, and they're like, oh, hey, he's coming here to get homeboy, who works here,
Carl.
I guess. Yeah, Carl. Carl, who works here.
Basically, we had Tim Shaw, who really needed a trip from the Fab Five, and then we had Carl, who was just on an hour-and-a-half long audition for Yama Fix My Life. Like, he was like, I got the affirmations, I got the metaphors, like, I'm just ready to level up.
Yeah.
Like, I understand my pathology, and I'm just ready to go on to be the next bigger me.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's what it felt like. He was just like, I write that I am beautiful and I am worthy in my mirror every morning. And I loved it, but I also felt like, of course it would be this guy who's like trying to better himself and struggling with because he's like, I forget what the affirmations were. I should have written them down, but they were like, I am worthy.
Yeah.
I am
brave.
I am brave. I matter.
He was literally Neville Longbottom.
Yeah, but like all of the things that like alien coming after you is not going to help with those issues.
No.
He's
Especially
just gonna
when you're
backfire.
like stuck in a crane, and then the doctor's
you don't like heights.
"Hey, what's up? I gotta come over and get you. Pull the crane this way." She's like, "Yaz, I need you to figure out how to work a crane." And then Yaz does. I'm like, "Okay, Yaz." Yeah. She's like, "I got this.
Resourceful.
I got this." And so, you know, the thing was a little off, and the doctor was like, "So you could just step. I mean, it might be a little jump, but you could just step down." And then I like gasped when Tim Shaw caught him. He like caught him midair, and I was like,
yeah.
"What?" Like,
I know. I was literally like, "Oh, what is we gonna do?"
Exactly.
We only had the one plan
that she came up with while getting up to the crane, the top of the crane.
Right.
Like, I don't think she got time for more plans.
But then she jumped and was like, "Oh, guess what I got? Sending you home."
Listen, that jump was epic. It was great.
It really was.
And then, is it time? I think it has to be time. Yeah. I think it's time.
I'm gonna be waiting before you start.
Girl, where is she going?
I tried to leave. I got caught up in the cords. Too many cords. I tried to got a blast. I really wanted to blast.
I was like, "What are you doing?"
The cords tripped me up. I was before you start.
Gotta go.
Got a blast. Didn't happen.
God, I can't.
Anyway, so Grace is brave. Grace is a person who there's conflict and something. Yeah, she's definitely a Gryffindor. Something's going down. She's going to ask questions. She's going to tell you what to do. She's going to be like, "All right, so this is where we need to go," and blah blah blah. And you know, earlier in the episode, they had fought the electric hairball monster with some kooky doctor science, and she was like, "Well, if we just recreate that, we can just get this one because it's on its way up to go attack my grandson and Yaz and the doctor." And she takes the thing
and my grandson
and her grandson, like most of all, and she takes the thing and successfully attacks the hairball monster, and then it electrocutes her and she falls, and she doesn't die right away. Graham comes over.
She lived just long enough to help
Graham, but not Ryan. Mm-hmm. But Graham, but not Ryan. Ryan didn't get any last words. Ryan didn't get last words. Graham got the last words.
Her last words to Graham are like, "Don't be mad, don't miss me, and live your best life," or some bullshit.
So this is a prime example of fridging. And I feel like the producers, and I haven't seen many people talk about it yet besides people like us, talk about it in that way because everyone's very excited, and I understand that. But, a woman was, and we'll specifically get into her being a black woman, but even just starting at woman, especially with it being a woman doctor, a woman is killed in order to further the story along for male characters. Yes, for male characters. For two men. And I want to give Ryan some, distance from it because I just want to, but also it is for him as well because he's the narrator of this particular story.
And honestly, I do think that it's going to be she dies so that he and Graham can become closer.
Absolutely.
I agree with that, but I also feel like
story to
her last words to me what made it seem like she died for Graham.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And so that's where some of that well,
also because Graham was super skeptical and I don't want to be here and why are we running toward the problem the whole time. He was very apprehensive.
Which is also made me upset because I was like, why do I have to agree with Graham? But I agree with Graham this whole way through.
But also Graham could also just not be there. He could also go.
He could.
He didn't have to stay, right? He could have gone home.
Yeah.
So it was very much a thing for him. It was for him and Ryan to become close. It was also for Graham to be cool with traveling with the doctor.
Absolutely. And the thing is that as we were talking about earlier, her picture came out in, a couple weeks ago or last week or whatever. And I was just like, ooh, snap. Is he married to a black woman? And, we didn't hear anything else about her. Again, the secrecy of the show was well, maybe we're just going to learn. And then I feel like people were on Twitter, you know, as we were live tweeting, we're sort of excited about it. But about halfway through the episode, you could just see everybody being like, oh, wow, Grace is really competent. Grace is really great. Wow, I hope nothing happens to her. Like, just like one by one, people were like, I hope nothing happens to her. I hope nothing happens to her. Watch something happen to her.
So what I do want to say is that we were tweeting. So shout out to Kayla for putting together the Lucky 13 live tweet, right? So we're retweeting. We're live tweeting with like mostly Black people.
Yes.
So I will say that like everybody is Black people seeing what's happening in the trajectory and being like, this looks like it's going to end badly, but also trying to not want it to end badly, so trying to be cautiously
optimistic. Maybe they'll know. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll do something else.
Because I saw some other thing where it was like all the white people were surprised that she died, whereas like we're all like, really, again, but like not like you did it.
No one was surprised.
They just shot. I mean, like it's a different showrunner and whatever, but like it's the same show that like shot a Black woman with a blue person, right? And like had this other Black woman be super whiny and shit over some dude who was whiny over some other girl who nobody cared about. So it was just like, you know,
So someone was like, DW, and I just loved it too because I love the way that it was written with the initials. DW doesn't know what to do with a strong BW. It's like Doctor Who does not know what to do with a strong Black woman. And I was like, yeah, they don't like...
They don't have to do with any Black woman.
Any Black woman. But like, it was definitely, to me, it was like, wow, like they do not know how to write a strong Black woman that is just strong and competent and like not get shot in the chest by a blue dude or not brought down by her love of a freak who's 20 times her age and doesn't want her. Like all of those things. And I thought, too, for, like, another thing that, like, really stood out to me about Grace was that she's older. She's a grandmother. And, like, so she is... And then we bring in, like, Ryan's dad, who's not around and wasn't, you know... From the pre-funeral scene, seems like it might come up later again. But, like, she is holding the family together. She's the one that's, like, trying to make sure that Ryan, like, and Graham... connect and, you know, is going to keep working at it. And so there was this added, like, how much does this Black woman have to sacrifice in her life already for you to just sacrifice her?
And I think my main problem too is that, so like, you know, it's the first female doctor. And the whole hashtag, it's about time. And they have Jodie Whittaker going on all these press tours and doing all of these interviews about like
real heavy-handed with that shit.
It was. So, but like that aside, like the whole glass ceiling shit, like you're doing a whole lot for a show that for 50 years had like white dudes as in the lead the entire time. But it was like, so they're doing this whole, like, it's like rebranding and it's like, look at how diverse we are. We've got 2 people of color as companions. We've got like someone who has like who's like a differently abled person. We have like, you know, there's like all these things happening. We got interracial relationship going on. It's like, it's so progressive and it's so all these things. And like, look at how feminist it is. Look at like this white woman can do everything. She's the doctor and she's like going to help all these young kids. Like, you know, it's like all this stuff. And then to like, it's very, it's like white feminism. Because it's very much like, look at all this progress we're making and we're trying to do all this stuff, but then like we're gonna fridge the Black woman. And then like again, I was scrolling and I was looking for reactions from people who weren't in our particular circle and who weren't Black, and I didn't see anyone else react to it in the way that they would have if Grace was a white woman. And so it was just very much like, especially because it wasn't necessary, it just felt very frustrating to me because like I saw it happening and then I was like, really? We really have to do this?
Because I was like maybe there's a half a second of a chance that she's lying on the ground and they get her to the hospital and she's just sick the rest of the season. And like, you know.
No, instead she's be the lady in the chair.
Right. Nope. Instead she's like, oh, just go on for me.
And she was so quick to be like, I'm dead. She was so quick to die.
There was
barely any.
It was very.
There was barely any reaction.
It was very Padme of just like I'm just gonna die now. Like I'm not gonna fight it. I'm just gonna go.
I'm gonna die. It was just
she's a nurse, so she could have been like,
Get me to get me to A&E.
Make sure that you call and let them know that, like, I'm feeling something here. Like, you know what I mean? Like there could, even if she was going to die, they could have put some more fight. Like the same fight that she had the whole episode. Like, the whole episode, she's this fierce woman.
I thought, because, like, you know, she fell from a height, that she was going to die immediately. So then I was like, oh, she's talking. I was like, well, then maybe she's fine. And then she's like, no, I'm dying. And just, like, go on for me and look after Ryan. And I'm just like, no, fuck that. Like, no. Like, it just feels like it's just so, like, just the blind spot is, like, wild to me. Like, I just, and, like, especially in a thing where they've been, like,
hyping up the feminism,
like, we're super feminist, and then you, like, do something as, like, cliche and as, like, overdone as frigid.
Yeah, like, especially because I think that they think that because there's a woman in the lead role that now it, like, softens that blow, but, you know, that's ignoring like hundreds and thousands of years of, like, you know, white superiority over black women in this particular instance. And it's just like, all right, like, it's not like your country doesn't have issues with this. It's not like, you know, like, you're coming at this from our very American perspectives, but also Britain isn't absolved of these same issues at all.
And also because I'm pulling my Ryan and I'm on the Twitter. They then, like, posted a gif of Graham and Grace, and it's like, we ship it. So is she coming back? Because she better come back. But they don't come back. Like, what's gonna happen here?
And that's my thing.
You ship it, but you killed her. You killed her.
Well, the social media manager ships it. The social media manager ships it.
Well, she should know that that's not a good look. You speaking for the brand, and the brand killed her, so the brand didn't ship it that hard.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Are you excited for yourself?
They shipwrecked it, is what they did.
They did. And the thing for me is that, like, when has a person died like this in a premiere? Like, there's been no one. I can't think of a character that they've killed who was connected to the companions like this.
Especially because they didn't. So again, like, it didn't have to happen. This is very much like what I thought. That, like,
every other time they've managed to have the family of the companion survive and just be at home.
Right. And this reminded me very much of, like, I think I said it, like, before, like, it reminded me very much of Solo when Tandy Newton died, where it wasn't necessary. In two ways, where, one, it didn't have to happen, because if they didn't want her to be traveling in the TARDIS, like, she could have just stayed home. She could have been like, well, I gotta work, and y'all can go do that thing, and when y'all are on Earth, I will help you out. I'm down, right?
Absolutely.
Two, they could have easily switched Grace with Graham.
Which is the same thing with Solo.
Graham does not, like, they do not need another white person on that ship. They do not really need another white dude just in the show in general.
Well, I mean, they're going to run into other white dudes. Like, white dudes.
That's my point. Is they don't need someone else on the TARDIS. And they can still explore Ryan and, like, his family dynamics, and they can still explore, like, him and his person, you know, his thing. They can
even still explore him and Graham and have Grace, you know, be like, well, out here in space, but, like, when we get back home, you and Graham are gonna have dinner together, whatever.
Right. And they can, and Grace and Ryan very clearly had their own, like their relationship wasn't just, like, love each other. They were very close, but they also clearly had some disagreements and whatever, right? So, like, it would have been really amazing, I think, to see Ryan and his grandmother, like, traveling in space and time.
Yep.
That shit would have been amazing. And then especially, like...
And it would have called back to Classic Who when, like, the first companion, I think, is the Doctor's granddaughter.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, just... Thinking back to when they were announcing the companions and when Graham was announced, and me being like, or just, like, all of us kind of being like, really, we have to have, like, this obligatory white dude because there's no white dude doctor. Like, really, do we have to do that? And knowing that it wasn't necessary, and, like, yeah, Graham is going to be much more integral to the plot than Nardole was, but, like, they could have easily flipped that and, like, sure, like, fan bro, whatever the fuck, like they would be mad, but who cares?
And the point is that they don't care, is that they're, or putting up a front that they don't care in terms of like, well, the doctor's a woman now, and
they're like
making
and she
this
should be
big
the
deal.
entry point for everybody. So like she should also be the entry. So if she's the entry point for everyone, then Ryan and Yaz and Grace should also be able to be those entry points for everyone. Like it's not just dudes have to be able to see themselves in people who aren't them.
Right.
White people have to be able to see themselves in people who aren't them, and like they get the doctor who's still white, still got that same color,
an alien who is still white,
who
chose to still be white.
Right, especially because Grace actually has the qualities of a companion. Graham can go somewhere and kick rocks. He can go travel around.
Graham didn't have any and my thing is he didn't want to be there, but he didn't have any of that curiosity that Grace did. He was just well, she said to do this, so let's do that. I guess I can call my my bus buddies, and then when do we get to go home? He wasn't innately curious in the way that Grace was. Grace
or Yaz and Ryan, who are both also curious and intrigued and investigating and clicking on things that they should. If it says if I die, click this, don't actually click it, y'all. But they clicked it because they have that, curiosity of a companion. And he was just like, well, why are we here? Right? Graham was like, why are we here?
He could have easily been like Donna's mom or Jackie, where he's just like, y'all really out here doing. Or Wolf actually wanted to do it. He just he was down for it.
Wolf was I'm here when you come down my street, holla.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in the way that he was a little antagonistic towards the situation and ambivalent about it. He could have been like Donna's mom or even like Jackie a little bit, where they're go do your thing, but I'm gonna be here minding my business and whatever. Yeah. Right. I think that would have been an interesting dynamic to have if you must have another white dude on the show.
Yeah.
Have fine, at home. But why do we need to then have her die, especially I think also if we were again back to if he must be on the TARDIS, have Grace live, and then Ryan and Graham can work out their issues.
She's a man in the chair. She would be such a good man in the chair.
There's just so many other things that she could have done. I think that she should have been on the TARDIS instead of Graham. Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too where they probably it's funny because the hype up or whatever, they didn't really hype Graham up that much. In the promo was very much Yaz, Ryan and the doctor, but it's one of those situations where they make this decision and then you watch it and you're very clearly she's the one who should be doing she is, and so they had to kill her off in order to let Graham be in this place that they're forcing him to be in a position that he doesn't actually want to be in. Mm-hmm. And that's unnecessary.
Yeah. And I think that it goes back to what we've said before about the companion's role. I enjoy the fact that there are multiple people on the TARDIS and that they have all these different connections and that are interesting. But why none of them have anybody at home now? So what's keeping them wanting to come back to Earth? They done had the whole funeral for Grace.
I mean,
so it's not even
we don't
Grace
know
is
about
their
Yaz.
reason. Right, we don't know about Yaz, and I mean, we can talk about that a little later, about how little we kind of do learn about her, and obviously it's just set up for later. We can't do everything in the first episode, but I don't know, it just really bothered me that, as it was my main companion complaint about Moffat is that the companions never left anybody at home. It's once Rory joined the TARDIS, it was well, everybody we meet joins the TARDIS. It was or aggressively doesn't want to, person who's banned from the TARDIS. And it would have been nice to have someone, either Graham or Grace, but Grace still being alive, be at home, because that's what the companions need, is someone to go back home to. They could tell her the stories and someone to give them joy when they're this is what makes traveling worth it, is this is fun and all, but we also really like being at home and being with you and telling you what happened, and that's part of our fun relationship. And that would have been a nice dynamic to have, even with she would have loved to see Graham and Ryan be happy together.
Remember when Martha, in that one episode that I don't recognize, thought she was going to die, and she called and she had that moment with her mom?
Right. That's what I'm talking about. That would have been great.
That would have been so, I'm so mad.
And I also do want to say too, part of, like, we're shouting and stuff and, like, we're upset. But I think one of the other things is, like, we're upset because, like, first of all, this is the first episode back since Bill's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so we were already, like, really on edge and frustrated already burnt out and, like, and burned and just, like, burnt the fuck out. Like, nobody, like, we come to Doctor Who because it makes us, like, feel happy and, like, fun, and there's, like, a sense of escapism to it, but there's also just, like, we're really excited. In spite, right? But, like, I also think that, like, the last 2 years or so have been the ones that, like, hurt the most, if that makes sense. Where, like, Martha, for me at least, was, like, I liked her a lot, kind of despite some of the writing of her.
Yeah. And she had an ending.
It got on my and
she had an ending that was like annoying, but it was still good and still gave her agency and still like gave her a choice and she still made a decision.
She was doing,
and then she lived after that. Right. In a way that made sense.
Whereas like, and then we just didn't have black people on the TARDIS. Just kidding. Sorry, my bad, River. I didn't mean to do you like that, girl. But like. Other than River, we didn't have any other, like, we didn't have any black people on the TARDIS for, like, a good 5 to, I don't even know. I don't know. We didn't have a black person on the TARDIS for, like, a really long time, right? And so then
oh my goodness,
we get Bill, and it's really exciting, and we're super, and it's great, and then she
to 8, yeah,
dies.
it was 5 seasons.
5 years, yeah. 5 seasons,
Mel's does not count for anyone listening.
No. Yeah, so then we get Bill, and it's great, and then she, like, dies in this terrible, or doesn't die, or whatever the fuck happened. But anyway, whatever happened to her, it happens in a horrible way, especially just, like, visually. And then we get this black woman who's really amazing, and then all of a sudden she gets killed for this white dude. And it just is, like it was one of those moments where, like, my stomach literally dropped.
I
like,
literally got a headache after it was happening.
I was so excited. I was literally on my bed.
It literally ruined the rest of the episode.
Exactly. Like, I was just like, this is so much fun, and I'm, like, really happy to be back in this world, and this episode is really great. And then that happens, and, like, I could barely even really pay attention to the rest of the episode. And
it was like, the height of the fall. You know, like
right.
with Danny Pink, it was like, well, you know,
I didn't.
You know, the stakes weren't as high in terms of like, all right, Capaldi's was still new, and like, but like Clara was still like, all right, I guess we're doing Clara again, and so like, you know, at that moment it was, you know, oh, Danny Pink's here, he's black, he's fine, cool. But I feel like the fall of, like, how terribly that storyline went down was not as steep as, like, the height and hype of, like, woman doctor, diverse companions, you know, new season, new everything. Everything's great. Oh, my goodness. And it just, like, rises up. And then, you know, we literally fell with her. We literally fell with her.
Yeah. Like, literally, because I was like, and Jodie's great, and everything's great, and I'm like, this is awesome. We're running into trouble. Let's do it. Like, let's do it again.
Let's
and it's like,
from cranes.
Like, y'all still don't care about us, bro. Like, basically.
Ooh, ouch.
And it's just like, I can't. Like, I just was very much like, I am now done with this episode. And like, it was the point where like they do the like, oh, look at 13 trying on new clothes, and I was like, I don't even
care. I will say, so I was going through Twitter, the hashtag Doctor Who, and then I added Grace to see, because what you were talking about, like we were in that bubble of Lucky 13 live tweet. So there are a few white women and white people in general on there that look according to their avatars. So like, you never know in these Twitter streets who call it what fridging and call it and say what it is. So that's good. But then I just ran into when you realize the woman who fell to earth refers to Grace. And on that note, Ryan rant. Anyone? I figured since Connie was here, I could pull the feelings bench. Make you all feel the way that I'm feeling right now when I read that.
Oh no!
And they added the Wilfred, Wilfred Mott like crying face. You know that? Yeah. Yep. 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 Thank you, Catherine Jersey.
You know,
YCC. Thank you.
Like that. I like my just the like reaction my body had. Like I'm angry. About that.
I'm sad.
Thanks so much, Kat.
Yeah. So, you know, the twist of Ryan's YouTube video was that it was his grandmother that he was talking about.
the whole time.
And ooh, that hurt. That hurt. Wow.
A lot.
Yeah. Grace is not nice. I mean, Kat is rude.
But she's not wrong. So there's that. At the end of the episode, she finds her outfit. Well, first she like goes to the funeral. They all have a funeral. I do appreciate that they did have one. A lot of times characters die on TV, and you know it's sort of like, oh no, they died, and then they move on. So I appreciate that, you know, Ryan has his tribute to her. They have a funeral for her. I wish Ryan had gotten to speak at the funeral for her, but I guess it makes sense that, like, he had his YouTube thing, and then, like, you know, Graham has the other thing, whatever.
Also, I will say, though, I really appreciated Graham's speech at the funeral because he said what we were all thinking.
It should have been her. It should have been him that died. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
He was saying, it opened and it was him standing there and he was like, I didn't know her as well as you did. And I was like, fuck off, Graham. And then he kept talking and I was like, you're right, Graham. It should have been you.
Yeah, you know, that speech sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know who we're talking about?
Don't know who we're talking about. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The doctor talks about, you know, family she's lost. And I'm curious if she means her actual family from Gallifrey or if she means all the little families that she's built along the way. I hope it's the latter.
Probably both, I would think.
I would hope both. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, all the families, not just, like, a lot of times they ask, like, did you ever have children? Or, like, were you ever married? And it was always, like, you know, so many centuries ago. And I would like the idea that, like, you know, the doctor now talks about family in the sense of, like, all the families.
Yeah.
So, new wardrobe. I'm interested in the fact that, like, most other doctors, you know, at some point steal their clothes from somewhere, and, you know, find other, you know, their past, future alternates, and we know that she gets a new shirt, so I'm like, did she buy alternate, like, she bought her shirt from a store, so, like, or Ryan and Yaz paid for it,
right.
So I wonder if she, also bought our alternate shirts at that same store.
I love how she used...
But she was also...
I love how she said my empty pockets as an excuse, as if she ever walks around with money.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, you actually never had cash.
Girl,
you never had cash. The only time you've had cash was when Tennant, like, did the machine with the ATM machine on Christmas. And he didn't even take any cash then.
Yep, he just let other people get... Well, he did the credit thing where he gave that dude...
Oh, yeah.
Or he let that dude with the credit live life lavish on Earth. I will say... The other thing, and again, Grace had passed on, and so I was upset, and I wasn't taking in the magic of that scene. I was mad.
Fair.
So what stood out to me in that scene was she's at a store just throwing clothes out of the changing room, and the shop girl is probably like, bitch, who go pick this up? You go pick this up? You ain't buying these? You go throw them on the floor? The hell?
I'm sure Ryan and Yaz, like, stayed a little after, because, you know, the doctor ran off, like, oh, it's paid for, gotta go, gotta blast, gotta get my tools together to look for my TARDIS. See y'all later. Meet me here at 3:00. So, briefly, we'd like to sort of point out that I'd like to point out there's a lot of death this episode, and
so much death.
Like, so much, like, more than I think is usual.
Well, I mean...
For this particular kind of episode, I feel like lots of...
5 people died.
How many?
5. And it was not, like, in the way of, like, when a lot of people die.
Like, when the Cybermen come, or, like, a Dalek, like, shooting people.
Yeah, where it's, like, a lot of collateral damage. But it was, like, 5...
very specific people.
Specific deaths that we saw.
And they all had, like, except for the conductor, it was like they all had some sort of, like, brief personality, you know? Like, the Indian guy and his sister, you know, like, we learned about his sister, and, like, that made it sad. And then, you know, the salad guy, you know, he's just, like, chucking tomatoes at the guy. And you're sort of like, well, how did your life get like this? And, like, that's just sad. Yeah, like, drunken, people. And it was sort of like, we had enough time with him to be like, oh, crap. Daisy's granddad, you know, freaking Grace, obviously. And it's just interesting to me that so many people died. And then, like, oh, now we have more people of color on the show. Now more people of color can die, I guess? I mean... Guys,
yeah,
this is not what we wanted. Exactly.
I found, so I didn't know, so I had to do a lot of digging in my anger. I was doing my research, and then I had to go back and do research when I calmed down a little bit, because I wasn't sure that the conductor was white, but she was white. And then the Indian guy, the salad guy, I still think might be white. I'm not sure. He had some I don't know what was going on with him. But Sheffield is 84% white, 2.4% mixed race, 3.6% black, 1.5% Arab, and 0.7 of other ethnic heritage. So would 5 people die, and at least 2 of them for sure were people of color, and that just don't add up.
Listen, I don't want them, but I don't want to go too much into the percentages, because then it would work in the reverse of like, oh well, there's too many people of color on the TARDIS now compared to the percentages of blah 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 blah.
Well, the reason why that doesn't make sense, right? Like that's cool, but like that basically what happened. No, that they don't know each other, but like
fair.
Ryan and Yaz jumped on. Well, I guess they didn't jump on the TARDIS. They kind of just got like transported into space. And now there's no more people of color in Sheffield. So that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. They all zapped out.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, so at the end of the episode, the doctor's like, I've jury-rigged this whatever to find whatever planet the TARDIS disappeared to, because she said, peace, deuces, gotta go. Use a woman now. I don't know how I feel about that. Let me take a little break. It's not you, it's me. And so the doctor has to go find the TARDIS. And I don't know why she thought that, Yaz, Ryan, and what's his name, holding her materials wouldn't take them with her. But, they were holding things.
She's still regenerating.
She's still fizzy inside, which I loved. And, they just all end up literally in deep space, not instantly dying. There must be some sort of... It's not like there's the TARDIS shell. How are they surviving? It's very Leia in space in Last Jedi. I mean that in a good way. For anyone... I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't think you hate Last Jedi, but maybe you do. So I mean to say that in a positive way. And, we'll see where that takes them. I'm very sad we haven't seen the TARDIS yet, despite, the things that I wrote this week. It's fine. Yeah, so...
Or do we want to talk about Yaz first, and then Sword, or do Sword and then Yaz?
So what happened is that there was a section in our agenda for Yaz thoughts, and my first thought was that she was giving me Martha vibes. She was skeptical, highly capable, and trained, and ambitious. And then when I thought she was ambitious, I had to sort her, and then I had to sort the rest of them.
Real.
Because I am who I am.
No, that makes sense.
And you wrote that, she seems, or one of you wrote that she seems to value the rules, but at the end of the day, she wants to help people. What's interesting in terms of thinking her about as Slytherin is that, she'll follow the rules until she doesn't have to. She was going to report, whatever was happening, and the doctor was like, girl, they ain't going to believe you. And she was like, you right. I'm going to hold off. But
she also was she gave her a concrete reason why and she didn't say don't report. She said, hold on, wait. And so it wasn't break this rule just blatantly. It was bend this rule to better fit and serve you so you look better when you do eventually report it to your, you know what I mean? And so it was it was very much a Slytherin reasoning to do what you want to do. I also just felt like Yaz was... I'm really excited to see more of her and have a storyline that's really, tailored around her. But I felt like she was skeptical. But she was never, I felt like Graham was skeptical, but, also kind of negative. And was just don't do this. Why are we doing that? Don't touch this. You know what I mean? And,
and even, there's that moment where he says, because when Ryan is going through... when he's realizing, he kind of caused this by touching the thing in the forest. And he's like, oh, bet you're going to just blame this on your dyspraxia like an asshole.
What? I didn't hear that. I blocked it out. Wow.
Yeah,
he said that? Whoa.
He said that shit, and I was like, wow, I'm really glad I don't know who you are.
Wow. I don't know him either now.
Yeah.
So I was even thinking about that, Yaz was because I think Ryan's just like, we all would have done it. And Jody was like, yeah, I would have done it. And then Graham's like, no, I wouldn't have. And I was like,
it was around that same moment where he said something.
Yeah, I missed it. I black out really rude comments. My brain just is like, I don't hear that. But Yaz, to me, was like, yeah, I would have investigated. Like, not like I would have been just randomly touching shit, but like, she's like, I'm going to investigate the weird happenstance, you know? And so I feel like it isn't, her skepticism isn't counterintuitive to traveling with the doctor. It's more like, things are not as they seem, and I want to get down to I want to get to the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. It just is. She just acts it out in a different way with less like useful enthusiasm and excitement. Like, she doesn't think that it's fun in the same way that like Grace and the doctor were like, we're having a blast, right? Like, this is a party. She's more like, well, there's a question that needs an answer, and I need to find it. Mm-hmm. It's a bit more serious, but it's the same. Like. It still makes sense that she would go on these adventures.
Yeah, totally.
So then after I figured out that Yaz was a Slytherin, it seemed only right that Grace was a Gryffindor, Ryan was a Puff, and Graham is a Muggle. And then I think Connie put 13, like, to ask me what she would be sorted as, and she's a Time Lord. She don't go to Hogwarts. What are you talking about?
That also, like, she's having
Gallifrey University. What are you talking about?
Also, like, even, I mean, we've sorted the other doctors in the past, like, on Twitter or whatever, but, like, I think also because she still hasn't, like, settled, you know?
Absolutely.
Yet. We don't fully know.
She's not 11th year yet. She's not an 11-year-old yet, so she hasn't been sorted yet. Because she's still cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still cooking.
So yeah, I can't wait to find out more about Yaz's family, like where she comes from, why she decided she wanted to be a police officer. I feel like we may not get that next episode because it's going to be hard in space on a whole different planet. So it'll be interesting to see how their dynamic grows, and we learn about her from what she has to say, and then maybe they'll go to Earth in a couple more episodes because usually it's like, you know, I guess they haven't traveled they can't travel in time at the moment. So we'll see how long that takes.
I will say that the way that this ended, I'm very worried that the majority of the episodes will be focused not on Yaz or Ryan, but on Graham learning to live and have his second chance at life without Grace. When the episode started, I don't think that was a worry that I had. I was like, I'm in it.
Yeah,
I'm good. And when the episode ended, I was like, oh, great, we're going to get 10 episodes of him dealing with his grief.
Yeah.
And I'm not about it.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Because, shouldn't be him.
Ryan rants.
Well, let's go to Ryan rants. So last season, we had Bill Fills. And because we're time and relative blackness in space, and there's a black person on the TARDIS, like, obviously, we got to talk about them specifically. My Ryan rant, personally, is that he's precious and must be protected at all costs, and I love him.
Should mine be rants or raves?
Raves. Ooh. Ryan rants raves. Or raves. Rants and raves.
All together.
All together. Mine is that he didn't fuck with Graham from jump, and I was like, I feel you, Ryan.
We're just, we connect on a really deep level.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing
she said granddad, and he said, you mean Graham? I think
also,
your brain.
I do want to say too.
Your mouth said granddad, but your brain meant Graham.
So you can have like people obviously have step grandparents and like refer to them as grandparents and not. But like if y'all only been married for 3 years, but also if y'all only been married for 3 years, he was 16 when he met this dude.
Practically grown, like
who is he calling this? He's a grown ass man calling this dude granddad that he just met. Why?
Right.
Why?
Like for
Absolutely
what?
Not. My fun thing was that this feels very Alfred Enoch, because Alfred Enoch is the son of a companion, William Russell, and William Russell's white, y'all. And I just found it, very interesting to have a black companion with a white grandfather, and it was sort of like, did y'all wish you could get Alfie Enoch? And he was like, but I'm over in America doing America things.
Call me when you get to be the doctor.
Right.
/ I
ain't nobody's companion, but that's cute.
Hashtag it's about time.
It's like when my family level
we'll
up.
have him breaking through chains.
Go to bed. Good night, Diana. Good night. Go to sleep. Go to bed. Go to bed. Right now. Right now. Go. Go. It is past your bedtime, obviously. God damn it. God damn it. And breaking through chains. You broke Connie.
Sorry.
Oh, that was... Okay. Because I'm picturing it.
It just popped in my head. It wasn't on purpose.
But I'm picturing it in the same glass ceiling room.
I know. Yes. Yes.
So it's like he has shades for no reason because he's in the middle of a room. Okay. Whew. Oh, man.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
I mean, I'm not sorry. I'm really not sorry.
You don't have, yeah, there's nothing to be sorry for. But, whew. Oh, Lord. Wow. Yes, so I like that
Ryan
dynamic.
That's where we were.
No, yes. As I said earlier, Ryan, I like that he uses social media in a really fluid way. So it's like somebody on that staff understands social media better than Moffat does, because he just like the internet, Wi-Fi, Twitter. But
it was also, to me, it was always very condescending. Like, oh, you're wasting your time on this thing, when it's like actually like this. Look at all the like.
Look at how helpful it can be.
Useful and helpful it is. Yeah.
I guess that's it. We just, I'm sure we'll learn more about Ryan's dad being late for the funeral.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I think that that's going to be a future storyline. And I think that the way that he was so quick to be like, oh, I think this is my fault, but didn't like wallow in it really. And even when Graham apparently said something way more shitty than I thought he did, wasn't trying to have a pity party about it. He was like, well, like, what is we gonna do? And like running into danger with his grandma, which like, God.
I think one of the things when he realizes what happens, he asks the doctor, what have I done? But it's not in a like, what have I done? It's in a like, what have I done? Like, what are the consequences of my actions, and like, how can we fix it?
Right, I absolutely think
which I appreciated.
Like, trying to own up to what happened.
And trying to like really fully understand.
And to be very honest, like, okay, like we need to know. Obviously, we need to know like everything that went down. Like, this might be important information.
I think it's also why Graham's comment made me angry, is because like in his head, Ryan makes excuses for things because of his disability, but like in that moment, it doesn't like he wasn't making an excuse. He was very much like, yeah, I did this. So like let me really fully reckon with what it was that I did, and like also like not fully apologizing for it, because he's like, okay, but like also y'all would have did the same shit.
Right? He's like, some bloke light showed up,
and I touched it.
Fuck is that?
He's like, I was confused and I was curious and I wanted to know what it was, and y'all doing that same shit. And so him being like, yes, this is my fault, but also like not woe is me, or not like, oh, my dyspraxia did it. But then for Graham to then be like, oh, your dyspraxia did it, was like, fuck you, bro, go away.
Right, especially because in the video, he talks about how he has enough self-confidence, because he's like, I'm smart, I'm pretty capable, even despite my dyspraxia. Like, despite what I told y'all earlier, I consider myself smart and capable. And so it was really annoying considering that this man wants to have a better relationship, and he's the one who's like yearning and aching and like wants to be called like, why would you want to be called granddad by a grown man?
A grown ass man.
And it's just like, there are other ways to show your relationship and show your closeness without the title. It's like, is that a British thing? Like, what is that about?
But also, I think too, it's like, and it brings back up Ryan's dad. It's like, he seems very close to Grace and his grandma and like his nan. And I think that it might be like, did he grow up with her? Did she raise him to a certain extent?
Yeah.
So it's being called granddad because like, you want to be accepted by his basically his mother. You know what I mean? Like, not just his like grandma, but like the closest person to him. Or the closest person to Grace, so you want to make sure that he is accepting of you, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. But at the same time, like, in that opening scene when he does talk about, like, it seems like he has some self-confidence issues around his dyspraxia, but he does know, like, his worth. You know what I mean? Like you said, like, he's like, I'm smart, I'm capable, and I'm frustrated because if not for this thing, I could be running the world. Right. But I have to, like, overcome this thing. And so for Graham to then come, like, try to help him ride this bike, but, like, feel like you're making excuse, you know what I mean? It just makes that whole opening scene, it lessens that whole thing. Because it's like, you're not out there because you want to help this guy. You're out there because you want him to accept you so that you feel more secure in your relationship with his grandma. Yeah. So it's not about him at all. It's not him calling, like, getting comfortable enough to call you granddad has nothing to do with him at all.
Yep.
Fuck Graham. I wasn't there yet. I was at the why are you here, Graham? But now I'm at fuck Graham.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I did think he has a stupid face. I did think that.
He does.
Like, but in a way of, like, he was always looking around. I don't know. His face bothered me, but not in like a.
But Ryan though.
His face is not stupid. No. Decidedly not.
No. Yeah. Okay. Quotes from the TARDIS. TARDIS not included. Because there's no actual
quotes TARDIS. From the episode on around Earth.
Yeah.
Without the TARDIS.
Quotes from Earth, which sounds just so much less interesting.
Exciting.
Quotes from the train. I don't know. No.
The TARDIS.
The name of the segment is quotes from the TARDIS, and we're going to keep it.
This heart is where we truly live.
This heart.
These hearts. No Sonic empty pockets. I hate empty pockets. You know what? I'm glad you have pockets, Jody.
In the first place. Okay.
That was the thing that I wanted to be like. Pockets. I was like, she don't know this yet because she only been a woman for 30 minutes. But
it's like you will be lucky to have pockets, and it's like that's why she tossed out so many.
They gonna be so tiny. You gonna lose all your shit.
Yeah, that's why she How that would have been a great, like, quick liner, like, while she's in the wardrobe, trying on in the dressing room, just like I
can't fit my Sonic in these.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Why are there no pockets in this shit? Like, something.
And that's clearly why, like, she tossed half the clothes out the thing in the first place. And maybe they included that line, but it got cut. But I'm always like, what did they leave on the cutting room floor that would have been so much better than tossing it? Anyway.
Oh, you're a woman. I am? Does it suit me?
It does.
It does.
As I've always said, I was okay with it being a man. But Jodie's so great. This is a rant. It was Connie's fault. Someone talked about Richard Iowati as the doctor, and there has never been a better choice. And I'm mad at myself that I didn't think of it before. I thought you had.
Witty. I think I actually did. I did think of it before.
That's why I tagged you. Lord. That's why I tagged you.
Because he's perfect. He's got this, like, bemused detachment about humans. He finds us all ridiculous and funny and like he wants to study us. He's smart as fuck. He's clever. He's hilarious. He's witty. He's charming.
You said those already.
Charming in a way. Listen, I don't care. I'm upset. He's charming in a way that is, like, awkward and alien-like. He's not of this world. He is better than all of us. He is adorable. He's got the floppy hair, damn it.
I think floppy hair at this point is essential. The only doctors who haven't had it were Nine and the War Doctor of New Who. And I think the hair must be floppy and the wind must blow through it.
Especially when you're feeling emotions.
Especially, or like trapped in space. I'm calling you Yaz now because we're friends. And they're friends.
Yeah. All right, troops, team, gang, fam. I love that.
On us like someone black must be in the room.
Oh, I never go anywhere that's just initials, even though the TARDIS is initials. But
again, go to Granddad. You mean Graham. That was set the tone. It's like we're all on the same page here.
Character introduction complete. Don't panic. It's not the end of the world. Well, it could be the end of the world, but one thing at a time.
This one I wrote down because I thought it was. Is it a subtweet? Is it a subtweet? It might be a subtweet. all of this is new, and new can be scary.
And you'll get over it. Is what gets appended to that silently, and somewhat not so silently. It's like you'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Oi.
Listen, I put that because I love a good oi.
I immediately thought of Donna.
Right, like I just love a good oi.
Man.
There's this moment when you're sure you're about to die, then you're born.
It's terrifying.
She had a lot of really good moments where she's like
explaining how it works,
explaining things, but also it also like doesn't make a lot of sense outside of like without context. So that like they're often just like she'll say some shit that's mad profound,
but
and then they're just sitting there like
no,
exactly.
Like Grim and Grace, like she got really close to
about
them, and they kind of backed up. Like this crazy lady is like a little too close right now, and I don't know what she's been talking about the last 2 hours. She's also building something with spoons,
right?
And I love her. Why do I love her? When people need help, I never refuse. Also, her body language in that line. Mm-hmm. I love her.
Yeah. She's just so earnest, I think is the word. She's just like, let's do this. I don't know who I am, I know who I am, even if I don't know what my name is, which is great. I'm good at building things, probably.
I mean, it seems like she is.
Yeah, she did it.
She did it. She wasn't wrong.
Did it. Sonic Swiss Army knife. Only without the knife. Only idiots carry knives. And my American behind said, or guns! Sorry for shouting. But,
those are true, though.
It's true, though.
He's fast. I'm slower because all this fizzing inside.
I think fizzing is a fun word there.
I thought it was a female joke.
I don't think so.
That's funny. I didn't.
Because fizzing is just a fun word. It's a very, like,
it is a very fun word.
Yeah. We can honor who we've been and choose who we want to be next.
Who?
I love that a lot. It was a very like I think this like episode was great, and I hope that it shows that like when she does regenerate, she's not another I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like she's very much in the like I'm accepted, like I've changed and this is what it is, and I feel like that seems like a good through line, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Even though she's also it's like super meta because it's obviously talking specifically to people who don't want to accept her as the doctor. So it's there's a lot of that.
I've got a plan. Well, I will have by the time we get to the top. That to me was like such a doctor line and such a 11 line.
Yes.
Like, I got a plan. Well, I have the workings of a plan. Well, I have the starter idea of a plan. Like,
yes.
When she said I have a plan, I immediately knew she didn't have one. Like, that's something that like I loved about like that moment is that she was like, I've got a plan. And they were like, oh, what is it? And I'm like, she ain't got no plan. Why did you talk to her? Respect the makings of the plan. It's formulating. She doesn't have it.
Respect the plan in progress.
Respect the plan.
Right.
Respect the plan.
Respect the process. Respect the process.
Exactly.
And as she says also, it's a work in progress, but so is life. And all her plans.
All the plans. All the plans.
Basically, Graham's monologue at the funeral, but not for the reasons he thinks, which is, and Graham talking about Grace saying, I'm complaining because I wanted more. Grace was a better person than I could ever be. I should have gone. Grace should still be here.
Amen.
Ain't you right, Graham? You so right. It's the truest thing you've done said all episode. Grace should still be here. You should be gone. Go now. Let's try it.
I feel like we can't. So we want to wrap up finally, and I feel like we can't really say this first one in our wrap up segment because this episode was long. And I mean the Doctor Who episode.
This episode was too long.
No,
not in a like this, like they've done an hour and a half episodes before. Like they do it with a lot of the specials. And a lot of the specials. Oh, yeah. It's usually a special or like usually Christmas or like one of the other ones. And I feel like it's fine. I just feel like it wasn't like I didn't like this episode. It wasn't, well, beside that one part aside, it's not like I didn't like it. It was more just like I don't think it needed it. Like they could have trim some stuff, if that makes sense. But also maybe because there's so many characters this time, they felt like they needed the more space. But
well, I will say one of the things that I was seeing a lot on social media too was that because the BBC had so many commercials, BBC America Yeah. Because I don't think the BBC has commercials. It just felt much longer, but it also like it was like stop and starts. Yeah. So like a beat would happen and then we'd have a commercial.
Yeah.
And like it didn't feel like it was written for that beat to have a commercial break.
Well, I think that the thing is that I do think that they do write them for the commercial breaks in America, but they just don't have them. And I think
one of the other problems too is that like if you're going to do the global premiere, and then like some of us have commercials and some don't.
That's not.
And then when they did it during New York Comic Con, the folks who got to watch it then didn't get commercials, so they are like ahead of people. So that part also was like not. It was
dumb. But like, so they do write them in. So the way that commercial breaks work in the U.S. is that we have act breaks. So it's like there are 5 or 6, 7 acts in an episode, and so they write it in that format. They just don't air. They don't cut it. So it's just like at the end of a scene, they'll just keep going. And in America, but it's just annoying that like
I think that is true of a lot of episodes. Like I felt like this episode, there were breaks that it didn't feel like they were written for. I feel like the BBC America knew that it was going to be a global premiere, knew that they were going to, and they added probably 2 more commercial breaks than necessary because they could, and they would get the money, the ad revenue.
Oh.
Like, there were 2 times when it just, like, didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't fit.
Yeah.
And when you have all of those breaks, the extra 2 that don't fit make everything feel like it was too much.
Especially when it's like, okay, now it's like an hour and a half and we have another commercial and we could just, like, watch the show.
And I honestly think if you're going to
I also just hate commercials, so it's probably that, too. Like, I hate them.
It's like, I don't necessarily hate commercials, but, in that way, like I have DVR though, so I always skip them. But,
same. That's why. Like I don't like live tweets. So then it's happening, and I'm like, "What the fuck
is this? Why are you trying to show me shit?" That's how we get good stuff. Like commercials are a necessary part of television.
Yeah.
In America because capitalism and whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't appreciate when commercials mess with the flow.
I also think though that like. All this money went into this global premiere, so I get that it's like high ad time, but also maybe just don't have commercials because you were going to air it at 9 anyway during prime time. See, Luna agrees with me. Like you're going to air it during prime time anyway, so why not just have the commercials then? That's when you have the high ad spots and like let the people who are available at 10:45 and 1:45 in the middle of Sunday enjoy the commercial free thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was a lot of things and it's not a big deal. And I'm honestly like, I think I probably just want to rewatch the episode without the commercials and then I'll probably be like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a big deal. It was just it was something that like I noticed, and then I noticed that people on
also BBC America's commercials are dumb because they put sneak peeks of the episode that you're watching while you so even if you're fast forwarding through it, it'll pop up and then you're like, oh wait, episode's back, and then you're watching some shit and then it goes to another commercial and you're like, well then what the fuck, like why are you spoiling
and then that thing happened like 5 minutes later and you're like, well that
just spoil that shit.
Yeah.
And they told them that was a good idea.
Right. You pull those clips through social, you don't pull those clips to the actual television. Like, that's just not, it doesn't work.
And I brought up the time of the episode, though, and how we couldn't say how long it was, because this episode is very long, of hours.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. If you are.
Okay, we told you it was going to be long.
We did start up front and say.
But also, it's all new, and then the shit was an hour and a half. Like,
with 17 commercial breaks.
Yeah, and like usually will probably be an hour, because that's how we were before, when we had an hour.
When we weren't talking about River.
We weren't talking about River, but that was timey-wimey, so like.
That was a one-off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I liked the episode up until Grace, and then it was like whatever. But we talked about that.
They sold Grace.
I still don't know Graham.
Haven't met him.
Although we'll have to talk about him because it seems like he'll have
actual story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that the Graham thing is going to now be tinged because we have Grace, which is like it was already fraught. And now, like, every decision he makes, I'm going to be like,
Grace would have done it better. She would have done it better.
Grace would have. We didn't need you here for that. Grace could have done that. Like, it's even more like you take something that was already, like,
They showed us the possibility and then ripped it away.
Yeah. Though I will say, and like, she was mentioned, and I think she even said that she's a recurring role. So we will see Grace again, but whether it's flashbacks or timey-wimey or whatever. But I do think that she's dead. And I do think that even if we do see her again, it doesn't take away the fact that they fridged her.
Right.
Because that's what they did.
They did. They fridged her, and it was stupid. So, things we're looking forward to end on a more positive note.
The title sequence.
That would be
and
great.
And the song.
By our new black composer. Like, I would like to hear the whole thing and not just, like, 0.5 seconds of it when Jodie slips through the window.
I want to see the time vortex and the TARDIS and the names and, like, the whole thing. Like, it's my shit. I never skip over it. Like, it's always been my shit. Like...
Also, what does the TARDIS desktop look like? I'm very excited and curious because, like...
I'm so ready for my new wallpaper and they didn't give it to me.
Right, like, what's the TARDIS desktop? Like, usually at the end of the episode in a premiere. Also, y'all...
But I think I'm fine with not seeing it.
No, but
I'm fine with not seeing it. It's more just like, okay, well, like, when are we going to see it?
Right, no, absolutely. But my note on that is 10 individual episodes and it ends with a freaking cliffhanger. That's sort of how that works.
Well, yeah.
Well, I still don't think that's like a cliffhanger. I feel like...
Yeah, because I think that, like,
she left in space.
I think it was the way that it was how they set up the fact that all three of them would be traveling with her. I don't think it was a cliff. Like, that entire storyline was contained. It was contained.
Yeah, they're not in the next episode. They're not going to still like those.
They're not dealing with the same. Yeah, they're not dealing with the same monster. They're not dealing with the same people. They're on a different planet. Yeah. It's not a cliffhanger. We obviously know that they're going to survive.
It's a cliffhanger, but it's not a cliffhanger for the plot. Like, of the story on its own, it finished, and the story finished, and then they said, "Okay, let's do some more stuff." And now we're stuck in space. It was more like we started the other episode a little bit early.
Right, and it just explains how they ended up on the TARDIS in a cool kind of way to explain that.
No, I don't think it's not cool. I just think that
they lied to you. You feel lied to?
Only a little bit, not a lot. Just like a little.
Angry Hufflepuff is angry.
Just like that was literally the definition of a cliffhanger. Except the cliff is space.
It was a space hanger.
A space hanger! They're hanging in space!
Yeah. We're doing that.
Also excited to see how the Doctor and her two companions,
no, not parentheses, capital TWO. What are we hiding it for?
Parentheses number 2.
Yeah.
And, we'll see how people are responding. People with dyspraxia and physical disabilities are reacting to how Ryan is treated, because it's important to listen to their opinions on that, just like, our thoughts on Ryan and Grace are valid and important to listen to. I mean, Chris Chibnall, I think his nephew has it, and so that's why he wanted to include it into the story, but I don't believe that Tosin Cole has dyspraxia, so it's sort of, one of those things where it's like...
There's that, and there's also, like, homeboy who does This Is Us, his wife, I believe it was his wife or his sister, who's fat.
I like how you said homeboy. There's so many homeboys on that show.
I know. Like 4. No, who, like, I'm talking about, like, the creator, and I can't think of his name right now.
Dan Fogelman.
Like, say it again?
Dan Fogelman.
Yes, Dan Fogelman, thank you. Either his wife or his sister, or, like, someone really close to him is fat, and, like, they don't know how the fuck to write case. So, like, saying that, like, yeah, I have these people and, like, we're doing this research. I think that they can do a good job, and it's more because none of us have dyspraxia, so we don't know. Like, we'll just have to, see what other folks are talking about. But, like, so they can do a good job, but also we just have to be mindful because...
I also want to point out that, like, it always is, like, someone in my family has this thing, and that has led me to be empathetic.
Right.
Well, guess what? You may not have any black folk in your family, but you should at least know that killing off a black woman is not the way to go.
It's not the movie.
Yeah.
It's not, maybe it's a story that you want to explore that doesn't end up with her falling to her death, but,
Yeah.
Maybe if I marry into his family, he will want to explore the stories of black women.
And it's annoying, just because, it's a thing that you may seem isolated for Doctor Who. I mean, actually, it's still not isolated for Doctor Who, which is the actual annoying part. But it's like, if it were just Doctor Who doing this, it'd be one thing. But this is like, we literally can say they soloed her because it literally just happened in another property, where it's just like, oh, awesome black woman who, had so much potential and like was actually too competent to die the way that she did. And so it's just like, this happens way too often, also in real life. So this is why this is such an important problem. Also, Tandy Newton is also black, a black British person. So,
Make Tandy Newton in America. Doctor. I mean, I know she's way too big for it, but like, right. She would actually be a really good doctor.
Right.
That would be lit. Also, I've never seen Solo because I was just like, meh. And now I'm like, meh.
It's cool. It's fine.
It's literally just fine. And it could have been 5 times better if they just switched Tandy Newton's character and Woody Harrelson's character, which is what we're saying about Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. Just would have been 10 times better if you just switched the two. But anyway, we tried to end on a positive note, and then
we are who we are, and the world is what the world is. Yeah, it's not our fault.
We did our best. Don't blame us.
Did our best.
So check us out at blackgirlscreate.org. We have, podcasts, our critical companion series, which is semi-inspired by Doctor Who, but we have monthly themes where folks kind of write they write critical pieces about the themes, so you can check those out at blackgirlscreate.org. Follow us on Twitter at Black.
This month is political science, politics and science fiction.
Mm-hmm. And fantasy.
And fantasy.
But this is a science fiction
There's
show. So if you have ideas.
Politics happening in this episode of Doctor Who. So if it inspired you.
And if there are politics happening, in the real world that are reflected often in different types of science fiction. Like a woman being in charge. So if you have thoughts about that, pitches at blackgirlscreate.org.
Boom. Follow us on Twitter at WeBlackandNerds, at Yana_Hollows, at Robin_Ravenclaw, at Constar24. Use the hashtag Tarbis to talk about Doctor Who with us, and discuss. You can use it when you're live tweeting, you can use it when you're listening to this, or when other Who things happen just in general in our life. Join our Slack, where we have a channel dedicated to conversations about Doctor Who. And also read Connie's recent Doctor Who piece on Polygon, which is super amazing. Rate and review us on iTunes and where podcasts are found. We want to, get more people listening to the podcast and get more folks' thoughts about
new
the
season, new
show
us, so new followers,
Exactly.
Also, speaking of new season, new us, Tarbis is now a part of the Hard Knock Media. So we're excited to join the Nerds of Color podcast network, which includes podcasts like Hard Knock Life, Southern Fried Asian, DC TV Classics, Ask Bi Girls, Daisy Geek Girls, We're Not All Ninjas, and That Moment. You can check out all these podcasts at hardknockmedia.com, knock N-O-C, hardnocmedia.com.
And hopefully we get some pals from the network on our show, because a few of them watch Doctor Who, and, these are all diverse podcasts, so hopefully we have more voices and not just us awesome black girls, different kinds of different ethnicities and stuff, talking about...
Daisy Geek Girls. I'm sensing a crossover.
Just like we plot. Just know that we're plotting. We're plotting. So if you listen to those podcasts and listen to ours, hopefully there will be some crossovers soon. But we're super thankful to Keith over at Nerds of Color for including us. And we're thankful to all of you for listening for however long this will end up being.
all of these moments.
Mm-hmm. So thanks. So you can join us next week where we will discuss episode 2, The Ghost Monument. It will probably be shorter, but I know most of y'all don't care. So
just pause it. Listen to it later.
it, come back to it. You know, we're here for you. Listen to all these thoughts. Listen to half of our thoughts. You know, do what you got to do.
Just press play and rate us with 5 stars. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
The black girls have the box.